Yeah, smiling evening to everyone, guys. So I request everyone to mute on, and this is going to be more of hands-on on AWS basics. This session is for whom someone who have no knowledge about AWS wants to transition into AWS understanding in depth and get insights of hands-on coding, understand deeper from the fundamentals. Yes, you are with the right meetup of CoderRange today. And today I'm going to demonstrate you what are we going to discuss, and I'll not take you much of theory. The session will be more of hands-on, and that is proven. So you can, if you have someone already with your AWS console, you can do along with us also coding. So firstly, the small introduction about AWS. So for someone who is actually looking to understand what is AWS, AWS is everywhere. It's you take premium companies, everyone is using AWS to store their data, and it's all about it's most of the times we are triggering the AWS Lambda functions to automate every task and everything. So it's not about cloud, it's more about we are actually the cloud guardians, and we are the one who secure, automate, and scale it. So before we start the cloud part, so what is a prerequisites for an AWS developer here? So what actually a prerequisite of AWS developer is? An AWS developer prerequisite is that they have to be someone at least have good or basic knowledge about operating system, networking, and CLI, command line interfaces. So, but that is something on the job you can explore or learn. But the question you get in AWS request is that Venkatesh, is programming language preferred or it is very important? Yes. For AWS, someone should have really good knowledge on Python or Node.js or any kind of language that you want to for scripting. It is mandatory. So I'll not waste your time as I told you. So initially the session is going to be for a 2 hour length. Okay. I'm mentioning in the chat box to everyone here. The session is going to be 2 hours length, and please make sure this session, which is of 2 hour length, is going to be covering everything from the fundamentals from Python to AWS, everything. I'll go very comfortable phase of understanding. So you can definitely do hands-on with me and write code. So that's it all about a simple introduction about AWS. The Now I'm going to talk about the basics. Python request is a basic AWS, any AWS developer should explore or understand. So what level of understanding, what understanding that Python you have to know in AWS? I'll demonstrate that also with a code example. Okay, are you guys ready? Yes. So yes, so everyone would be talking about I'm a AWS developer. Do I really know a lot of in-depth in AWS? I mean, is it something I have to know Python? What level of skill set I should possess in Python? So I'll talk about that only now. So what level of Python I should be good at? So in Python, yes. So everybody would say that I'm beginner to AWS. So why are you teaching me Python, or what is that I have to know in Python to write a code with AWS? So I'll talk about that. So in AWS, if you want to write a code in any kind of applications or anything, if you want to write a Python code, first let me demonstrate a simple code. So I'll first start with variables in Python. So what is a variable? So first in Python, if you are going to write, so I'm going to start with the first 5 to 10 minutes introduction, and then I'll go deep dive. Guys, I cannot directly go into deep dive. For someone who is already well versed with Python, please hold for 10 or 5 minutes. You will get a lot of in-depth understanding after that. So for someone who is beginner, you can understand, start with this Python. For AWS, what is a Python basics you need to understand? So Python basics for AWS developer. So what level of Python basics something you should know? You should know how to declare a variable. For example, smiles is a variable which has 50 count. So for someone in Python developer, he should know how to declare a variable. Okay, that's cool, Venkatesh. That and all I'm already familiar. And what is that I have to know in Python more? So in Python, developers who wants to work with automation in AWS, they should know how to write code with scripting. Scripting approach of coding and automation approach of coding. So clearly understand. So AWS expects you automation approach of coding. It will not expect a scripting approach of coding. So what is scripting approach of coding? I'll tell you. Scripting approach of coding means I will write all the code with set of lines of code, but all the code, for example, I'll write like this. So smiles is equal to, okay, I'll write down like this. Joy is equal to happy is a data. Data is happy and variable is joy. And then I am written something like this. So it's there is so then I would take you an understanding here. So that is one thing. So if you can understand this scripting part, so joy is happy. And then let me talk about this interesting fact here. Joy is equal to happy. I'm writing a variable here. Okay. After this writing variables, what I'm going to write down in Python. So basically any coder will understand first declaring variables, then they'll write a basic code as conditions, then they'll write loops. Okay. Then they'll some of them will write a scripting approach of coding. That is, you will write variables, conditions, loops, and then you will work with some data structures, DSA. So I'm going to write this in the form of scripting. Scripting, if I want to write, I have written already variables here. Okay. So this is a variable I have to specify in Python. Then conditions, how to write conditions. I will write a condition like this. If is a keyword, the variable name is joy, is equal to if I am happy, okay, and I will be, so I'll print here something called, okay, I I might win, I'll put this. Then next concept is I'll write loops here. So loops, how do I write down here is, so for writing a Python loop, so variable, if you understand in Python, the data will get memory. Remember that Python variables are just pointing to the data. So if I'm writing a condition, I'm comparing this happy. Joy already holds happy. I'm comparing that happy here, and that will print I win. So this is scripting approach. So scripting approach, you will get an output called I might win. Okay. So this is scripting approach, but generally Python doesn't allow this approach of coding. We have to write an automation approach. I'll tell you what is an automation approach. So I'll write a loop, basic loop here for keyword I in range of 3. So what will range will do is, range will, for each iteration, range will initially start with index that is 0 to 2. So it will give, range will assign 0 to this index I, and then it will print this. Okay, so this is something you can do it here, and you can see the output is going to be like this. Okay, so you can see there is an error of syntax error colon. Okay, so that you can fix it up here. So you get this I might win and 0 1 2. So now everybody will say here, yes, I am very confident, I've comfortably understood this. So now if you understand here as a developer, this is a use cases here. So if you, let's go in depth now. So I have written here conditions and loops. Now this is something everybody is saying, Venkatesh, we are already familiar with this. Now talk about something important here for all the audience here. You might be telling, Venkatesh, this level we have potential, and every one of us here who have joined, who are a coder, they will be potentially knowing this. Now in data structures, let's talk about data structures. So data structure is very important here. So I'll create a data structure. So what all data structures we have? We have, let me talk about here. We'll take tuples. So here you can take this is tuple, list, dictionaries. Now this plays a very important role. So tuple means what? I will take example is your computer. Your computer will be, tuple means example in your PC. Your PCs, generally your PC is, most of your PCs are tuple. Tuple means what? When you buy a configuration, your processor is fixed. Your processor and your RAM is fixed. Let's say 8 GB RAM you put. take it down here. Okay, so you will be taking it up this way. So you will be fixing it with your processor, and your RAM is, you have specified it as your RAM is, that's your processor is something, and your RAM is, let's say you take it as 8 GB. Okay, that is when you buy your configuration of your laptop configuration is being basically made it as this thing. Okay, so now coming back to the list part, so which is something I will talk about here. So everybody, I would request you to move, guys, so we are going in a good pace of understanding. So list, when we will use this list is example, suppose you buy one server. Okay, let's say that's you buy one server one which has a capacity of, let's say, it's a 16 GB RAM, and tomorrow you want to add one more server, you can use list is all about growing the data, so you can write list dot, so maybe you can specify the object name list dot, you can use what append, and you can add more servers here, so you can add a more servers, you can specifically add here more server 2. So that is very, very important. Okay, so that is one way we can do. For example, when we can use dictionaries, for example, I want to add in real time, I want to add more servers in different regions. For example, your company wants a server at, you want a server to be configuration at Mumbai. Okay, you want one server to be there at Mumbai location, and so that is one server one you want to have it, so that is dictionary. So then you have one more server you want at Bangalore region, so then you can specify a key is Mumbai region, and the server is at this Bangalore, and then you can specify server 2. Okay, now this is something we are trying to specify with a dictionary, that is curly bracket. Okay, now this is actually called an scripting part. So scripting part means everyone tries to print this data. So I'll print this dictionaries here. Now I'll talk about exactly what set of code in your AWS expects. So you can see I am comfortably able to see all the outputs here. And so most of your code is saying I might win, and the loop is coming, and this is happening. So this is something we are all familiar with. Everybody, smiling coder will talk about this now here. Now I'll go in depth. Now I'll talk about, this is called scripting. Scripting means you declare variables, conditions, loops, and data structures, right? But automation is what? What is automation in AWS? Automation means in AWS, all the code written in AWS in terms of either functions or OOPS concepts. So how AWS actually implements it, I'll demonstrate very in detail. So in this example, I will write automation. How do you write automation is, first in automation, we will convert this complete code. You can see this all code, right? This code, we will write enough reusable functions. So I'll write def, I'll write down, it's called, what is the name of the function? I've specified it as reusable. Okay. Inside this reusable, inside this function, I'm going to write down all this code. Okay, so now you might get a question, Venkatesh, which is better? Which is better approach of coding here? Now I will write a function name called reusable, and inside this I'll use indentation to align this code, because this all code belongs to this function. Now why I should do this? Any audience here who wants to answer this? Why should I write like this? So what benefit when I do if I automate this code into functions or classes? Anyone? Come on, audience.
I want to code again.
Okay, don't want to code again. That's one thing. But the problem in this code is that all the data is fixed, right? So if I want to do automation here, what is the problem in this code? What's the problem in this code? Can anyone figure out the problem in this code? Problem in this code. What is the problem in this
No
code?
parameter. No
No
parameters.
parameter. That is one thing. Very good. So that is a good sign of understanding. But one more problem is there. What is that problem?
Hard coding values.
Yes, hard coding value. So we see this is a big problem, because every time when I run this code, it will only run with happy and this code. That is not a good sign of understanding. So in automation, if you want to reuse the code, your code in automation should not be hard coded, right? That is the reason of not hard code. So how can we make this code better, guys? So how do we make this code better? Any suggestions from any one of you? So how do I make this automation better? Is that, let me write down this code. readable code or reusable code. So I'll write down it as automation. Inside this automation, I will pass. So in this code, which is very important variables, which is very important decision making things here, right? So I would definitely, that is one of the use cases, right? So let now the more of it's what we are trying to do here, or what we are trying to understand here, is that in this code, let's do one thing. In this automation code, so especially your tuple, your list, your dictionary should never be known what type of information. So, and also imagine your joy. So how can you automate this code? So look at this. You take this variable joy into the arguments, okay, and that joy is deciding the conditions, right? And loop is no need to automate. If you want to loop it, you can write down a loop, that also you can automate. And coming to this data structure, all this data which I'm going to have get it, I can receive it in the arguments also. So I can write here tuples, list, dictionaries. So in the process of automation, I am expecting the user to pass this data. Getting my point, all of you? What is AWS expecting most of the coders is that in the process of automation, the user will pass the data to the code, that is functions. So what user wants to pass, he will pass it. So what will happen to this code? Can anyone tell me here? What will happen to this condition? Will this condition be there? Will this condition be there, guys? Condition will be there. There is no problem in the condition. Correct? Will this loop be there? Yes, loop will also exist. So this loop also will exist. And so this loop also will exist. But only thing is this loop will do have this range will come from what? This arguments. Correct? So coming, what is it? The next thing is, what about this guy? So you can see this is indentation is a problem here. Yes. So that is something we are fixing it up. So that is now clear. So this is in automation process. This variable, whatever data I pass, I may pass happy, I may pass something else. So in this process, I might write a condition. If joy is not equal to happy, if I'm not receiving that data, I can raise an exception also. Raise an exception also. That is an exception I can pass. Invalid data. So you will see most of the time this kind of coding approach in your AWS. Hello. So most of you guys will see this kind of approach in AWS. So keep that in mind and work, because AWS is gonna take you, and most of the important thing is it's gonna take this kind of approach of coding. So in the automation, all the code will depend upon the data you pass to the arguments. Okay. So all the code will depend upon the data you pass. So what data you pass, based on the data, the code will automate your work of your work. Okay, that should be very clear to everyone here. So with this, you got confidence, all of you, right? So the fundamentals of your, so what is the fundamentals that you needed for your AWS, right? So in this approach, I will demonstrate this code. So now let's just look at this, how this code will work now, automation side. So I'll have to call this function, okay? So the benefit of this approach of coding is, if I call this function, then only the code will execute or memory will allocate. If I don't call, I will not get any memory. So let me call the function. So I'll have to pass joy is what? Let's say if I want to pass happy, let me pass happy, comma, let me pass loop, how many times you want to run? 3 times. Then let me pass the next arguments. I have tuple, list, dictionary, and this. That code I can directly write here. So look at this, how I'm going to write down here. I'm going to define all the 3 people. So I'm going to define all the 3 people, and then I'm going to pass this objects also here. I can pass that tuple, I can pass the list, I can pass your dictionary also. And end of this automation, I can loop this data structure also. For I in, I'm going to loop this dictionary, or I can loop this list also. So I'll say print your list. So now you're going to write down most of your code in your automation is this. So if you have any questions also, you can let us know. I'm going to guide you through. So now this code is without proper automation. So this code which is without proper automation. I'll comment it here, guys, to not to get you in this approach of coding. So you can comment out that code. Okay, and this is a function which is there, but this is the problem in this code is data is hard coded, and even if you reuse this code, this is going to be problem. Okay, so that is why we are going for automation approach of coding in thing. So you will call the function and pass the data, and then you're going to execute this thing. Now this approach is pretty better, and that is what I'm writing this code. So you see this automation approach of coding. If I pass happy, I will get I might win. You can see that. Okay, you will see I might win. And for looping is happening 3 times, and it's looping the list also. Server 16 GB, server 2 is also coming. So this approach of coding only your complete AWS uses. It means if a programmer wants to automate any job, anything it is, it can be EC2, it can be cloud storage, it can be identity access thing. It will ask you to automate by calling a function and pass the necessary data. And it will use most of the times data structures only. Okay. So these fundamentals are important for any basic cloud developer. I hope you like this now. If you have, I think if you really like this, you can thumbs up, guys, or you can comment it if you really found it's interesting. So this approach of coding only will be there in your Python AWS. But there is an interesting thing AWS is gonna give you. I'm gonna tell you that. Yeah, I see a couple of good comments, but others, come on, everyone. I think Chandrahas, Balamurugan, yes, hope you are smiling, guys. Jitin, yes, lot of smiling coders. Yes, 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 lot of smiling coders here. Yes. So, okay, thank you for that. Now, 1 second. So now we'll talk about the next thing here. I'm going to talk about the next automation thing here. So in this process, I'm going to discuss you the next important thing. Sorry, so that should be this guy. Yeah, so I'm going to demonstrate the automation part done. Now I'm going to go a little in depth, guys. Let's have, if you have any queries also you can ask. So what exactly AWS expectation today from the audience? So audience will be there here. I like every smiling coder here. I wish to see the smiling faces, but yes, exactly. If I can see you, but I would say that Venkatesh, you are talking about automation part. Now tell me exactly what AWS is doing for me. Now what I am supposed to do here. Just I'll tell you that demonstration only. So all the smiling coders. So what AWS is expecting. So just here. Suppose for example in AWS, I'll say I will write a function called as EC2. Okay, EC2 instance. The function name is EC2 instance. Okay, this is my function name. And to this function, I'll pass server configuration. So carefully listen. This variable is server configuration. So a programmer, I'll just put like this here. If the server configuration, I'll write down the code detailed. I'm writing very in depth. I'll check this. If the server configuration you want it is what type of OS? Let's say it is Linux, okay, or maybe I'll write down it's Linux. So, or I'll write down one more condition here. If the server configuration you want it is Red Hat, okay, or I'll write one more condition. You are asking if the server configuration is, let's say, you are asking for RT Linux. Okay, so why I have written this EC2 instance function is that if a user asks, suppose I'm the user, I'll come and ask, I'll say I'm a user. A user will only, because AWS has written already the automation code for you. Okay, you are a user who is a coder who will come to, you'll call this function EC2 instance, and you will pass, let's say you want a Red Hat mission for your thing. You will pass in the string Red Hat. So what will AWS do is take this string into server configuration and it will check the server configuration. It is Linux? No. It will check the kernel configuration is Reddit? Yes. It will go and satisfy this condition. If it satisfies this condition, what will EC2 instance will do is, it will actually create a data structure object. So carefully listen this. So this is actually your server. I'll create one object named as server configuration is equal to, I'll create a list. So inside the server configuration, sorry, I'll create a dictionary. Okay. So inside this server configuration, so maybe you can write, yes, server configuration. This server configuration, it will be appended here. Dot, it will take update. Okay. Into this update, it will pass key and value. It will update the key what you pass. What is the server configuration? And it will take that key and value. It will add this into the dictionary automatically and return you that dictionary. The key is server configuration and value observe. For Red Hat mission, it will take some configuration. Maybe for this Red Hat mission, let's say I'll take an example is it's taking you Core i7 something, Core i7 processor, and let's say 8 GB RAM something you take. This is the information it has got. So if the server configuration is Linux, it will again update this information here also. But the server configuration what you passed, it might have a different configuration, Core i5, and maybe it will have 16 GB also. Okay. If the RT Linux, then the server configuration is going to be different. This is how they're doing automation here. So depth, I thought basics first for all the beginners. Then I'll go slowly in depth. I'm gonna slowly help you to understand all the depth here. Okay. So I'll call this Red Hat. Now when I call EC2 instance of Red Hat, it will be passed Red Hat to server configuration. It has a dictionary. So now what will happen? It will match what? Red Hat. So it will update into this dictionary this information. So what will it do is, it will return that server configuration. So return the server configuration. So what it is going to do is, it's going to return you back that server configuration. Yes. So then I have to collect return value. So this is actually called as my server configuration. Object name is what? My server configuration is equal to, and you can print it. This is how actually your AWS is automating all the all the kind of services. It's automating with the functions and oops concepts. So now I'll call this code, that is my code which I have written now here. So let me comment out this code also, because I don't want any of this other codes to run through. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate in this approach. So what exactly a basic coder needs here in AWS is, this is what. So now I'm going to run through this code. As you see this, all of you, when I call EC instance of Red Hat, it will take here Red Hat. Okay, and in this Linux, it is Red Hat. It will come here. It will update this into server configuration, that configuration, and returns me that object, and I'm printing this object. Is this clear, guys? Are you smiling now? Now did you understand the exact automation of it? Like this, AWS is gonna provide us lot of automation code. For all this automation code, as a coder, we need to execute that code, passing the necessary data here. If you can pass this necessary data, it's gonna return most of the time data structure objects only. Keep this in your mind. So how is data structure used in AWS? I'm going to demonstrate in the next 10-15 minutes where they are using, how they are using. Most of the cases, they're asking you to, yes. So that is what you can do is. So yes, any more questions here, guys? So any more questions here, all the smiling coders? Someone is having some questions here. If you have any questions, you can ask me.